Hello, and thanks for joining us on this episode of CANDID Talk with Zainab Suleiman Okino. CANDID Talk is a public enlightenment program that x-rays social issues with a view to effecting positive change and setting agenda for stakeholders. Today on the program, we'll be discussing the topic 80 million out-of-school children versus constituency projects. Our guest for today is Angela Agbo-Awike. She's a journalist and activist who is passionate about development programs. She was former secretary of the Nigerian Guild of Editors, NGE, and fellow of the same NGE. Angela is a partner and owner of Omalicha Media Network and Omalicha Radio FM Owerri, respectively, and coordinator of Journalism and Development Seminars Initiative based in Abuja. She was International Affairs Officer at the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, having edited national newspapers such as Post Express on Sunday, Daily Times on Saturday, and National Interest on Saturday. Angela is a board member of Media Rights Agenda, fellow of the Oxford Energy Forum, fellow of Salzburg Seminar Series, and fellow of Alfred Friendly Press Fellowship, Washington, among others. Angela, it is my honor to have you here with me.
Thank you very much for having me.
Before we begin, let's take a short break. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you are just joining us, the program is CANDID Talk with Zainab Suleiman Okino, and today we are discussing the topic 80 million out-of-school children versus constituency projects. And to do justice to this topic is no other than Angela Agbo-Awike, a journalist and activist who is passionate about development programs. Angela, once again, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Zainab, for having me.
So, a deputy director with the MacArthur Foundation, Mr. Dayo Olaide, recently disclosed that there are 18 million out-of-school children. Are you surprised at this figure? Remember, we used to talk about 13 million, 12 million. How is it that we are not progressing? Or are we progressing negatively?
Well, I don't really think anyone should be surprised hearing that we have 18 million children out of school. The truth is that UNICEF actually puts the number a bit higher. UNICEF says 18.5 million children out of school. But that's not surprising, is it? We see what is going on in the country. A lot of kids are not going to school. If you ask maybe the parents, they will tell you they don't have the money to sponsor them in schools, even though at certain levels education is free. We have a lot of insecurity. Most parents are now scared of sending their children to school, and some of them are helping out in economic activities. By the way, this 18.5 million people, about 10 million of them are girls, are the girl child, and we know the implication of that. That's really huge. We're talking about girls, mothers of tomorrow. People, women who are going to take care of the children of tomorrow, call them mothers of the nation. And if they are not getting the education they deserve, what future do we have for them. And, a lot of reasons have actually been given for this. Apart from the fact that some parents say they cannot afford it, you find out this level of insecurity we're talking about. How many children, how many girls do we have with bandits right now, either with Boko Haram or anywhere? So parents are really scared of sending their kids, especially the girls, and this is not okay. So no, I am not surprised. And if nothing is done, it will even get higher than it is right now. Because you look at, you kind of project to the future. What's going to happen? Are things getting better for us to be able to ensure that these kids are in school when they're supposed to be and not roaming the streets? No, it's not getting better. The parents, most of them can't still afford to send their kids to school. And it's not just about paying school fees. They have to buy books, they have to clothe them, and they have to feed them. So I am not surprised, and I don't think a lot of Nigerians will be surprised hearing that 18 million or 18.5 million children are out of school right now.
Some might even say they are more than that.
Yeah.
But help us explain to our viewers the budgets we do every day, every year. Where is the money going to? Is it that what we budget for education is not enough, even though by international standard we all know that it is not enough? Well, so we need to, I want to establish a nexus between the budgets we do every year and these out-of-school children. Because as representatives of people, I'm talking about our lawmakers, it's expected that this is something that they should look into at their local levels.
Yes, I agree with you. It's something they should look into. But we should also ask, how many of the lawmakers actually go there knowing the needs of their constituents? Do they talk to them? Do they go back to them to find out what their needs are? Whether they have enough to send their children to school, the kind of laws that they should make that would assist parents, guardians in ensuring that their children go back to school. So how many of our lawmakers actually consult with their constituents to know exactly what they want? I'm not sure we have them doing that. Rather, we have a situation where maybe during Christmas periods, you see some lawmakers, they go back and share half bags of rice to the people. Yes, they are hungry and they want rice, but what really do they need? We started, you talked about constituency projects and the money may be allocated to them. This is part of what they are supposed to do. Yes, we have the local government authorities who actually should take care of primary education, but the lawmakers can also attract such benefits to their constituencies, maybe fixing of schools, ensuring that the children, when they go to school, maybe even making uniforms for them. It's all about encouraging them to be able to ensure that these children stay in school. So in terms of the budget, maybe we've always had budgets, like, it happens here all the time, but as usual, our problem has always been about implementation, monitoring and implementation. Maybe you budget 100 billion to ensure that children stay in school for primary education, but does that money go into primary education? Is it used for what it's meant for? So what about monitoring, implementation and monitoring? We have to rise up to that as well. That end, I'm not sure we've done well.
I was even going to ask that question. Is it about, because in recent years, we've heard about budgets being passed early compared with in the past. So is it about how early or how well implemented, or whether monitoring is even taking place at all? And that's what you have just talked.
I think there's a bit of all of them. The budget has to come early, it has to be well implemented, and it has to be monitored to ensure that we're getting something, benefits out of the budget. So I think it's a combination of the three. And if we pass the budget early and it's not being used for what is supposed to be used. The programs are not being implemented. Then of what use was passing it early? And if they come up and tell us, oh, we've spent such amount of money out of the budget, can we see it? Is there anyone taking a look? Who's reporting and telling us, say, yes, this money has been put to proper use? So it's a combination of the three. It's a bit of three of them. I don't think any of them works in isolation of the other.
Okay, let's look at the coming election, 2023 election. How do we situate these two issues, constituency projects, out-of-school children, in the coming election? No one seems to be talking about it. There will be lawmakers. What do we expect from them? And the electorate, anyway.
In an ideal situation, we will say, okay, the aspiring lawmakers, they should, like I said earlier, they should actually sit with their constituents and ask them what they want, and not assume that they know what their constituents want. You know, I've seen situations where some lawmakers go back, they sing boreholes that, you know, that you use hand. Yeah. Meanwhile, in the community, they put these pumps. Every household has borehole. So who's using that? You know, so if you ask them, maybe that's not their need at that point. So if we have a situation where the prospective lawmakers can actually have in mind that they are going to serve the people, that means they will have to sit with their constituents and know their needs and take their needs to the House when they go there, either the Senate or National Assembly or House of Reps, wherever it is. When you know what your people need, and that's where the constituency programs also come in. When you know what they need, because the lawmakers are not supposed to implement that project. It's supposed to be done by whichever agency of government.
So, but in most cases, they bring their own contractors.
That they are not supposed to, because that means they are using it to compensate whoever helped them to get into office. They can recommend, I understand, they can recommend. Take the list of budgets to the implementing agency and let them go back to your community and implement that budget, because that's what your community needs at that point. Nobody made it up for them. But a situation where a lawmaker, maybe a prospective lawmaker, has mortgaged everything he owns, everything, hoping to get in there, and people sponsor him, there's something they need in return. You have to give something back. And oftentimes, I think maybe this constituency project is what they use. Lawmakers are not meant to implement projects. It's not their job. Their job is to make laws. There are agencies of government whose responsibility it is to go and implement, identify what your community needs, and table it. There's money set out for that, so that those whose responsibility it is can go and implement that budget. So first of all, that's what I think they should do in an ideal situation. Sit with the people, listen to them, articulate what they need, and go to the House and present their needs. But what we have now is like, okay, they come begging for votes. At the end of the day, it becomes a master-servant relationship.
Unfortunately.
Then, during holiday, they come back and share bags of rice and cartons of Indomie. These people have been feeding January to December. So that carton of Indomie does nothing to them. But then, understand from their own point, they're also hungry. You give them that, they just take it. And then you leave, and they're left with nothing.
Okay, talking about sitting down with the electorate, that will be lawmakers sitting down with the electorate to decide on what they want or to ask questions. It seems to me that the electorate is not even conscious enough to table what they really want, what matters most to them, to the will-be lawmakers, such as what we've just talked about, the provision for school children. So instead, the lawmakers or the will-be lawmakers or the lawmakers themselves come up with what people can easily take: rice, tomato, or tin tomato. They put their pictures on it. And so how do we make the electorate to have that consciousness to ask for the right what really is good for their community, their future, their children, and their welfare. Instead of collecting biscuit, collecting money, 5,000 naira, which cannot help them.
5,000 is even a lot. Some of them actually collect 500 or 1,000 just to vote someone into office. But the thing is this, how can we make the electorate conscious? If we take it from the government angle, I think the National Orientation Agency should do a lot about that. We need to have the people really sensitized about not selling their votes, about asking those people who come canvassing, asking them questions. I know it's difficult in a situation where there's so much hunger in the land. People are just looking for the immediate, to feed their children, to clothe them, send them to school. They are looking for that. They are not thinking of, maybe you also need someone or an organization to help them articulate what their needs. NGOs can also help in that. Community-based organizations can also help. Sit with these people, not just the lawmakers. We always have this tendency of people preferring to liaise with the big people, the lawmakers, rather than the community. That's not discountenancing the fact that a lot of NGOs actually work at the community level these days. But I think in addition to whatever they do, they should actually begin to create that consciousness, political consciousness in everyone. Everyone is political one way or the other, but we need to build up that consciousness. You have the right to ask your lawmaker questions. You have the right, if you have a need, a genuine need, you can go to your law that requires intervention. You can write to your lawmaker that this is what we are lacking. I'll give you an example. One community, my community actually, there was a time we didn't have light for almost 1 year in my community. And
where is that?
Somewhere in Imo State. For almost one week, you couldn't reach any of the representatives to ask them what is going on. We're not asking you to use your money to do this job, to fix it. Just help us find out what's the problem. Let them talk to the people who are responsible for this so that they can know that there's a problem here. Because maybe they don't even know. And the voices of the people, they're not getting there, but you are in a position to pick the phone or even ask one of your aides to call them. Ask them, my people don't have light. Can you do something about it? I think this is basically the simplest thing we want from our representatives. Table our needs.
Asking the right question is very important. But if you are just joining us, the program is Candid Talk with Zainab Suleiman Okino on Trust TV Abuja, and our discussion centers on 80 million out-of-school children versus constituency projects. And my guest so far has been Angela Agoawike, a journalist and activist who is passionate about development programs. We'll be back after this short break. Please stay with us. Thank you for staying tuned to Candid Talk with Zainab Suleiman Okino on Trust TV Abuja. And my guest on today's episode has been Angela Agoa-Wike. She's a journalist and an activist who is passionate about development programs. Together, we have been discussing the topic, 80 million out-of-school children versus constituency projects. Back to our discussion. So I had asked earlier on about lawmakers beating their chairs, saying that the budget is performing very well. And then you talked about monitoring and implementation all coming together before we can actually boast of a very good budget working for all of us. How exactly should the budget work to the advantage of the people it is meant for?
How should the budget work? I think at the end of the day, the people who should actually point to something they gained from the budget that year. If in a year you budgeted that, okay, for this community, this is what we're going to provide a school, we're going to enhance education, we're going to provide a health center. At the end of that budget year, it's necessary to take count of what has been achieved against what was proposed. If we're able to do that, then we can be able to say, okay, you promised this in this budget, we didn't see it. What happened? Are we going to get it at any point in time, or is that the end of it? So we need to be able to, first of all, we also need to know what was budgeted. Has it been released to the implementing agency? Because we might also have a budget, but those implementing haven't seen the money and the year is running out. So we need to know, there needs to be a lot of transparency so that we know how much was budgeted, what are the projects assigned to the budget. We saw what happened at the Supreme Court. Let's even go back to that. You know, when the Supreme Court justices protested, part of it was, yes, there was a budget, but the budget were not, the money was not fixed against articles. You know, this is what this will be for. This is what, so that we can hold you accountable for each budget item that was implemented or not implemented. We need to have that kind of transparency, openness, accountability, and above all, monitoring, evaluation to ensure that what you said you were going to do, you did it. And we can say, yes, we saw it. Yes. You know, that's, in simple terms, that's what I would say, that if we really want to know that the budget is working for us, we need to know how much was budgeted, who is implementing it, has the money been released, has the project been implemented, and at the end of the day, we can say, oh yeah, we saw it or we didn't see it.
Okay, I think part of the problem we have is that we do not even trust government. And to our representatives, we also do not trust them. You know, recall this issue of lawmakers collecting a lot of money while the people that they are representing are in poverty. So because of that, people are losing interest even in politics generally. And lawmakers are even the worst hit. So how can we restore confidence in the system?
Well, yeah, people are losing confidence, but we shouldn't. Because at the end of the day, politics determines a lot of things.
It determines leadership.
Exactly. You have to put yourself out there. You might, okay, they're not doing so well, then go and do it. Or hold, you know, I keep talking about hold people accountable. Hold the system accountable and see if it works for you. And I can also understand, I've talked to a couple of lawmakers in the past, or people even cover lawmakers. They're also under a lot of pressure from their constituents. I don't know whether it's because of lifestyle. You know, you see someone who had nothing, becomes a lawmaker and then is flaunting big fat jeeps, driving you off the road because so you give the impression that things are okay for you, and your constituents, things are not okay for them. So anytime you're around, they flock around you, they want you to settle them. But their children are sick, they come to you. School fees are not paid, they come to you. That shouldn't be your job, except if you have a foundation, a philanthropy kind of thing you are using to assist. But in terms of your job, is to make sure that they have what they need. So if we need to restore confidence, I think we also need to do it. We need to be open. We need to let the people know that we are working. You are working for them. I'm not part of the lawmaking, whatever now. So you need to show that you are working. It's not just during campaign. You go, you throw money around, you know.
But talking about big gifts and all that our lawmakers use, does it not speak to our value system? Remember before the program started, we were discussing how lawmakers live in the U.S. You even made an example of the current president of the U.S. When he was a lawmaker, he used to take the train, the normal train that everybody takes. And here, they want to oppress us with their new acquisitions. So that speaks to our values. What do you say about that?
It speaks a lot to our the low value value we place on what is important in society.
On material things.
On material things. Now look at it. Let me even put it this way. If you want the lawmaker, this now on their side, if you want the lawmaker to go by public transport, which public transport? We don't even have it. The train system we have, we've seen the problem now associated with even taking the train. So we don't have public transport system that you can rely on, which now leaves you to go for your own private vehicle. And that's where the problem comes in. Yeah, you buy all these big cars and you want to drive the ordinary person off the road. You're also giving a different impression of what it means to be a lawmaker. And you have policemen guarding you, everybody must clear the road because you're passing, and you're supposed to be serving them, representing them. So yes, the value we place on material things in the society today, it's so high that when you see people going, it's like, I have to go and get my own. You even go there, you come out with nothing. They say, but your mates are the same people there. Look at all the things they have. What did you go there to do?
So what's your last words on this issue? You know? What's your last words?
I think we need a different kind of society. We need a value reorientation system that would enable us to really appreciate what is beneficial. It's not just about acquisition of material things. And we also need to have public infrastructure. It will help a lot in easing the burden on individuals trying to acquire as much as possible. If you know you can go out there and get things done for you. You know, I think
Thank you so much, Angela, for your time today. Well, viewers, that's the much we can take on the program today. Until we come your way again, keep watching Trust TV. Bye for now.